All right, good morning, 7th graders. I am going to quick recap some things that we learned on Friday before we get into the new stuff that we did not get to on Friday. So real quick, I just want to refresh your memory as far as our words that are going to indicate a specific inequality symbol that we're going to be using, because that's basically the big thing that we're going to be doing today, is you're going to be given a sentence using, like in the first column, you'll have see the word is less than, and that's going to indicate using that less than sign. Or in that far right column where it's the greater than or equal to sign, you'll see that word at least, which is going to indicate using the greater than or equal to sign. So I just wanted to have you guys take a look at these one more time. Again, they are in the vocab section of your notes for you guys to reference as well. I also just want to kind of review as far as how we graph our inequalities. Remember, the rules and how I explained them on Friday only work if the letter comes first, which you'll worry about next year if the letter comes afterwards and how to handle that. But for 7th grade, we're just going to think about if the letter comes first, how we graph that. So remember, we always put 3 numbers on our number line, just like what we did for all of these examples. Just be careful with your negative numbers to make sure you count correctly with the negative part of the number line. Remember, it is a closed circle on the ones that have the equal to part. If it does not have the equal to part, notice that it's an open circle. And then as far as which way you shade to show the solutions, or what makes it be true, is if you look at the inequality sign, the tip of the arrow will tell you which way to shade. So on example A, the tip is facing towards the left, so that's the direction we shade. On example C, the tip is facing towards the right, so you're going to shade towards the right. When you're writing inequality from a graph, you can use that same thing. Again, you have to put your letter first, otherwise the rules that I've been teaching you are not going to work. So notice in all of these examples, we're putting our letter first. What letter you use does not matter. Then again, the way that the arrow is pointing is indicating the inequality symbol that you're going to use. So in example A, the arrow is pointing to the right, so you're going to put in the inequality symbol that matches this. And then whatever number has your circle goes in your inequality. And also, if it has a closed circle like it does in example B where it's filled in, make sure you get that equal to parts. So here's where we left off on Friday. We want to determine whether an inequality is true or not. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be plugging in an x value, or as an example B, the y value into the inequality and determining is that true or is that false. Again, this is stuff that's getting you ready for stuff that you'll be doing as an 8th grader. So in example A, we have the inequality of 2x plus 8 is greater than 7. And we're going to take this negative 1, because it says x is negative 1, and we're going to replace that with the x. So this is really 2 times negative 1 plus 8. And we're going to see, is this really bigger than 7? Order of operations tells us that we multiply first. 2 times negative 1. Our signs are different, so it stays a negative. Plus 8. Negative 2 plus 8. Again, you guys all know the song that we sing with this. You just have to make sure you use it. These two signs, their signs are different, so you subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. Now, we're doing all of this because we wanted to see, is that number really bigger than 7? Well, is 6 bigger than 7? And all of you guys should be saying, no, that's not true. This is false. So that means when x is negative 1, we do not get a true inequality. We get a false statement. Basically, it's like, oh, it's lying to us, is basically what it's doing. Now let's take a look at example B. This time our inequality is y minus 42 is less than or equal to negative 2, and we're going to put this 40 in place of the y. So we have 40 minus 42 is less than or equal to negative 2. Remember, we don't like subtraction, so we're always going to do our keep, change, change. Because again, our song that we sing only works if there's an addition sign there. So 40 plus negative 42. These two signs are different, so we're going to subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. And our inequality ends up being negative 2 is less than or equal to negative 2. Now, this one some students have difficulty trying to figure out, is it true or false? Because negative 2 is not less than negative 2, but because it is equal to, because it has this equal to, it actually makes this one be true. If it did not have this equal to sign, if it did not have that, then that would be a false statement because it says less than or equal to. It just has to be one or the other. All right, I would like you guys to go ahead and try these two. When you guys are ready, go ahead and press play and see if we can come up with the same thing. But you guys try these two. Tell me if they are true or false. All right, taking a look at these two. In example C, when you plug in the 6 and then you simplify on that left-hand side with your order of operations, you get 9 is less than or equal to 12, which that is a true statement. On example D, kind of similar to the second example on the previous slide, you plug in 17 in, doing keep, change, change. This one I'm sure you'd still be fine if you didn't, but I strongly again encourage it. But you get 10 is less than 10. Notice there's no equal to part on this one. Because it's just strictly less than, this is false. Because it has to, like it's not truly less than. It's equal to, but it is not less than. All right, the last couple things that we're going to take a look at is we're going to take a look at, if I give you a sentence, how do we write them as an inequality? And we are going to practice graphing them as well. And I know you guys don't like writing all of it down. These are pretty short sentences, but again, I'll still highlight the bare minimum that I would write down for your notes. So in example A, it says you must be at least 18 years old to vote. I would write down at least 18 years into your notes. Now on this one, if you look back to our words that we wrote down, at least means the greater than or equal to sign. So we're going to pick a letter. I'm going to use V for vote, but you can pick any letter you want. And again, this word at least means greater than or equal to that number. And if you think about it, that you can be exactly 18 to vote, and you would have to be older. So you want 18 or older to work, and that's what this inequality means. Now, some students sometimes struggle writing the inequality, so what they'll do first is they'll make their graph. They'll put 18, a number bigger, and a number smaller. Whoopsie. Got a little ahead of myself. And a number smaller. And then they'll think about the actual problem. Could I be exactly 18 years old to vote? Like if this year, if the elections were on your birthday and you turned 18, could you vote? Yes, you could. Because as long as you are 18, you can vote. So you're going to put a closed circle at 18, and then you would say, well, I have to be older than 18 to be able to vote. This would then help you with making sure that you can then get your inequality. On the homework, I'm pretty sure, I don't have it in front of me right now. On the homework, I'm pretty sure you just have to write the inequality. But if you need to do the graph as well, you can definitely do that. If the directions do say to do both, then make sure you do both. I just don't remember what I put on there for directions. All right, on example B, This one says the speed limit on I-35, so Interstate 35, is 70 miles per hour. So I would put on here, highlight the limit is 70 miles per hour. So this one, I'm going to start by making the graph and then writing the inequality. Because again, that's how some students need to think about this. They're going to put that 70 in the middle, 71 is bigger, 69 is smaller. Now, if the limit is 70 miles per hour, I want you to first think, can you go exactly 70 miles per hour without getting a ticket? And you can. That's kind of what the expectation is that you go up to 70 miles per hour. But then you want to think about if the limit is 70, that means you can't go over it. So you have to stay lower than 70. Now, knowing this class, you guys are going to say, but Mrs. Haugen, you're probably not going to get a ticket for 71. You're totally right. You're probably not going to get a ticket for going 71. But you could. I got pulled over one time going 73. Most of the time I do go 73. But in that one instance, I did get pulled over. I luckily just got a warning, but I still did get pulled over because I was technically speeding. I had to stay under that 70 mile per hour speed limit. So I'm going to use S for speed for my letter. And because our arrow is pointing to the left, looks like the less than sign, and it's a filled in circle, I have S is less than or equal to 70. All right, let's take a look at example C. Example C says a maximum fee for any student is $15. So we're going to put maximum fee is $15. Again, I would for sure put that into your notes. Again, I'm going to always put a graph to start with for you guys. If you're able to write the inequality first, awesome. My number in the problem is 15. Again, you always have to put 3 numbers on it for my class. Always do a number bigger and then a number smaller. Again, on this one, think about here, a maximum fee. Could you pay exactly $15? Yep. Would you be expected to pay more than 15? Or would you expect to be paid less than 14? If the maximum, you're always going to stay under that. That means you never have to go over that $15 mark. So I'm going to pick a letter F. Arrows pointing to the left, so less than or equal to because it's a closed circle, and 15. All right, I'm going to do example E with you guys, and then I'm going to have you guys try the other two on your own. So I'm going to skip around a little bit. Example E says, you must be less than 4 years old to receive a free dinner at Perkins. Now, I don't know if this is true or not anymore, but I remember at one point at like Perkins and places like that, that kids would eat for free sometimes. I don't know if that still happens or not. But on this one, we're going to say that you must be less than 4 years old to receive a free dinner at Perkins. Again, I'm going to start with a graph. Now, if this one just says you must be less than 4 years old, could you be exactly 4? Like, let's say you were going to Perkins to celebrate your 4th birthday. Do you think Perkins would let you have a free dinner? According to their policy, if this really was, they would not have to. So this would be an open circle because once you turn exactly 4, you don't qualify for that free breakfast anymore. And you have to stay younger than that. So because it just says less than, there's nothing that indicates it being equal to. This one's an example of an open circle, which we had not seen yet. I'm going to use P for Perkins and less than 4. All right, I would like you guys to go ahead and try D and F. Again, I'll highlight kind of bare minimum what I would put into your notes. for both of them. And then I want you guys to write an inequality and make a graph for it. All right, taking a look at example D. On this one, hopefully you recognize that the word at least indicates that's your greater than or equal to sign. So I use the letter T for this one, but T is greater than or equal to 35. So I have a closed circle at 35 on my graph, shading towards the right, towards the bigger numbers. And this one some of you guys might be able to relate to as far as going to Valley Fair when you guys were younger, that you knew you had to be a specific height, and you got measured to see if you could actually ride the roller coaster. In example F for this one, it says at most 30. So at most means that I can go up to 30, but I can't go over. So I'm going to have a closed circle at 30, and I'm shading to the left. So I have H is less than or equal to 30 for my inequality. If you guys have questions about any of these, help each other out, see if you can figure it out. Now the last type of examples that we're going to take a look at, these are actually called our compound inequalities. On Friday, we defined our compound inequalities as inequalities that are combined by the words and or. Hopefully you'll notice as you're just glancing at these three that they include two numbers. Basically what these mean are that you have to meet one of the two requirements in order to qualify for that event or to be able to do whatever it is, kind of thing. So on example G, again I'll highlight the bare minimum what I would put in your notes for the sentence. So it says to receive a discount at Valley Fair, you must be less than 8 years old or more than 60 years old. And just for clarification, I made these numbers up. I don't know if that's true or not. I know they do have discounts for really young kids and our older adults, but I don't know how accurate these numbers are. Okay? So on these, what I would recommend doing, if there are two numbers, I would definitely start with a graph, because that'll just kind of help you to make sense out of the problem. Always put your smaller number on the left and the bigger number on the right. So now let's just look at the first one. It says you must be less than 8 years old. So if it says less than, you can't be exactly 8, but you can be smaller and get that discount. Or you can be more than 60. So in this one here again, you couldn't be 60 exactly. You have to be older than 60 to qualify for that discount. So you'll notice here that we have two parts to our graph that don't overlap. So these just require us to write two inequalities connected with the word or, because you just have to be one or the other. And you'll see the word or in the problem. So this one is x is less than 8 or x is greater than 60. So again, as long as someone going to Valley Fair, as long as they met one requirement or the other, they would get that discount. On example H, again, I don't know how Prior Lake does this. I know that my old school at the high school had rules kind of similar to this, but to go to prom, which normally is a junior-senior thing, you must be at least 16 years old and less than 21 years old. So again, write down what's highlighted. And again, this one has two numbers on it, so I would really recommend starting a graph with this one. 16 and 21 are two numbers that are given. The first one says at least 16. So we talked about earlier that you could be exactly 16 and older and be able to go. Then it says and less than 21. So less than means it's just an open circle and you have to be smaller. Now you'll notice on this one, these two arrows overlap or they touch. You have to fall between those ages in order to go to prom in this problem that I set up. So here's how we write an and inequality. Notice that we're shading in the middle. So the letter that we pick is going to go in the middle. So I'm going to put an X. You always put two less than signs. Always. If your first circle is closed, that means that first inequality has the equal to, and if the second one were to be closed as well, you would put a line underneath there as well. And then you just put your smaller number first and your bigger number second. Now, some students will be like, but Mrs. Haugen, like, the inequality doesn't seem right for this at least 16. It technically is right, and you'll learn more about that, why that is next year. For right now, we want you guys just to focus on if it says and with your graph, if the lines cross each other, you just want to think about putting your X in the middle. Always put two less than signs. Figure out if you need the equal to and numbers on both sides. If you have questions on that one, see if you guys can help each other out. Otherwise, these ones actually aren't that hard, but sometimes they take a little bit just to think about. And I can help you with some of those tomorrow if needed as well. All right, in our last example, I totally made this up too. Those of you guys that are cheerleaders, I don't know if this is accurate, totally made up. So to be a flyer for cheerleading, those are the girls that they get tossed in the air kind of thing. It says you must be at least 100 pounds and less than 125 pounds. Again, totally made it up. I just picked numbers. I couldn't think of another example. So at least 100 pounds and less than 125. So because there's two numbers, we're going to go straight to making our graph just to help us make sense of this. The first one says at least on 100. That means it's a closed circle. At least means we're getting bigger. And less than 125. Less than means an open circle and smaller. So again, notice those two arrows here overlap. So our X is going to go in the middle, sandwiched between two inequality symbols. And I should say less than inequality symbols. Our first circle is closed, so I'm going to put an equal to. Our second circle is not, so we're going to leave it as open. And again, just filling in the numbers from smallest to biggest. And here's the inequality that represents this situation here. If you need help, see if you guys can help each other out with these. Going up to G real quick, this one's an or because one, the inequality or the sentence says or, and also notice that we're not shading in the middle here. So if it's an or, you are shading out. So you actually have to write the or statement. So here's what you guys are working on the rest of the hour. The sub is going to pass out the inequalities worksheet, which is due tomorrow. When you finish that, quite a few of you guys are missing work, or you have redos to work on for math. If for some reason you're someone that doesn't, like you have all your missing work done, you have your redos all done, then you can work on something else quietly. But for the rest of the hour, you guys are going to be working quietly. Just some quick reminders. Tomorrow, we will be working on the practice quiz, and you will have a quiz on your two-step equations and inequalities on Wednesday. And then on Friday is going to be your chapter 4 test. Okay? So that's how the rest of the week is looking out. And I will be back tomorrow, and have a great rest of your day.